Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Wan Adalia Rasya binti and my metric number is 2310440 and I am from 231 section 2. So today I'm going to present or talk about a book called From Somalia with Love, which written by Naima B. Robbert. So let me introduce a little bit of the background from Naima B. Robbert. She is an author of multicultural in literature and also founding editor of the UK-based Muslim women's publication, which is Sisters Magazine. She is born in Leeds, which is in England, also to a Scottish father and also a Zulu mother, which both come from South Africa, and she is studying in the University of England. So she is first converted to Muslim in 1998. So that's all a little bit introduction for the author. Now let's move on to the summary of this book. So basically, From Somalia with Love is about a young girl around 14 years old, which her name is Safia Diri, is an immigrant from Somalia to East London. So she has lived with two brothers, which is Ahmed and also Abdullahi, and with her mother. So the conflict of the story begins after the news of the arrival of her long lost father due to the war in Somalia. So what happened is that throughout this book, her life is being conflicted with a lot of cultural diversity between British and also with Somalians, and also she is having a personal growth as a 14 years old girl. So throughout this book, she had a lot of struggles after the arrival of her Abu, which is her father, and she is having a lot of misunderstanding between those two cultures, which is the culture of British and also the culture of Somalis. She doesn't really know a lot about Somalis. So after her father begins to have a little bit disappointed between their own family conflict, she started to have a lot of struggles after that. So this book tells us a lot of lesson on how we should stay true to our faith and also the roots of your own country, and never ever abandon of your own country and got influenced to another country. So that it can avoid all of us from having a lot of illegal stuff or illegal acts that prohibited in Islam. So for this book, I'm going to point out only 3 main points, which going to talk about the diversity of each agendas or each sequence, so that we can learn so that we can actually learn what we actually can get from this book. So let's delve into it, shall we? Alright, so let's move on to the first point, which is about identity and also belonging. So what can you get from this point is that this book tells us the sense of loss in finding our own identity after living in foreign countries. So what happened is that Safia Diri, she started to lose her own root, which is she is from Somalis, but she started to forget a lot about culture from Somalis, and she also began to question about her own identity, whether she is still a Somalis or a British girl. So due to this, she had a lot of conflict in finding her own identity, in wondering her own belonging of where she should be or where she should known as to be. So this could actually help her in finding her own self, so that she knows that she is belong to which culture or which country. So there is an excerpt from this book, which is from this excerpt we can actually see that Safia is having a hard time, a difficult time, so wondering which part of her identity were actually, because she was being labeled for many things such as Muslim because of her religion, also as a British because of where they're living right now, because of she also got labeled as Somalia because of her passport, and also a lot of things. So due to this, she had a lot of struggles in understanding where she was and what kind of people and where she is actually where is actually she come from. So what should she call herself and what should she identify herself, because she's having a lot of struggle after immigrating from Somalia to British or to the East London. So due to this, you can find that Safia is having a lot of hard time in understanding her own identity and having a strong difficulty in wondering where she belongs to. So there's another excerpt which talk about her Abu, which is, from this excerpt we can actually see that the father, which Abu, have a difficulty in wondering where he was right now after being saved from Somalia's war. So due to this, Safia is having a nervous and also fear of how would her father react after they have been immigrating completely from Somalia. So due to this, Safia is been wondering how could her father's is going to live in the British after this. So based on this excerpt, you can actually see that the father also having a lot of conflicts in understanding where he was and how could he want to adapt in a new environment, in a new country, because they are fully enough in the foreign country where they don't belong to. But still, throughout this book, the Abu is actually very, very strict and also quite stern in focusing more in the Somali's culture so that they don't get influenced to the West, and will always hold on tight to their faith as a Muslim. So now let's move on to the second point, which is about cultural conflict. Let's move on to the second point, which is cultural conflict. This is the most main theme or the main point that we're going to point out in this book. So basically, the first thing is that Safia doesn't really know a lot about Somalis, and that's the problem, because she living in the East London have completely influenced her in how the East London or the British people live. So due to that, she had a lot of troubles in understanding how cultural in Somalia's were, and due to this, it actually really make her confused a lot and try to adapt especially after the arrival of her own father, which is Abu. So from this excerpt, which is going to be this. So from this excerpt, we can actually see that Safia didn't even know the chanting that the family were doing, because she doesn't really involve herself and she doesn't really know a lot about the culture in Somalia. So due to this, she had a lot of struggles, and even though she wanted to follow the chanting, she couldn't, even though it's just a repeated words, because she doesn't know a lot about it, and she had a confusion about this. So I'm going to move on to the next excerpt, which is this excerpt. From this excerpt, there's actually a conversation between her Habariyero, which is her aunt, about upcoming wedding. So basically, in their wedding, they have to wear a lot of dira. They also can wear what we call henna, and they have a lot of things in their culture they can do. But due to the difference in between those culture, they cannot even wear what they want in the weddings because the culture is very different. So due to this, from this excerpt, we can actually see that the aunts were talking about how Somalis right now are being dispersed and how they have lost their own identity as Somalis. They didn't even want to follow the same cultures in Somalia, and this could actually make them sad because as Somalians, they need to always hold on to their own culture and also need to know where you are and always never deny your own roots. So from this point, we can actually learn that it is very, very it's very, very crucial for us to adapt and also for us to not abandon it once of our own culture, because it actually evolved in our life throughout the whole life, especially with your own faith as a Muslim. Because after we getting into influencing from those West, it could actually give us a lot of negative impact in our lives. So due to that, it's really, really crucial for us to remember who you are and always stay on your roots and never abandon it. So now for the last point, which is resilience in faith. So in this point, we can actually focus on the part where Safia herself are being shaking with her own faith. So from this part, we can actually see that after her involvement in meeting Firdaus, which is her cousin, she started to have a lot of shaking, or like have a lot of questioning on her own faith as a Muslim. Because after meeting her cousin Firdaus, Firdaus is a very, very opposite of Muslim. She had a lot of struggles after the divorce of her parents, and she started to live in her aunt's house and then like being rejected and all the stuff. So she decided to let go her hijab, start to evolve, and like be getting influenced by the West, to the point that she left her own faith as a Muslim. So after Safia meeting her, she started to also questioning a lot of stuff, like why does Firdaus start to take off her hijab, and also why does we as a Muslim begin to question ourselves, even though we already have Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala as our God. So from this point, we can actually see that Safia is getting very, very challenged or like test by her own cousin after she got involved into meeting boys, watching movies, and even bad tragedies happened to her that make her started to begin to realize that what she did was wrong as a Muslim. So from this excerpt, I'm going to delve you into understanding how your cousin actually really looks like. So basically from this excerpt, you can actually see how her cousin looks like, and you can understand how Safia getting shaken by her own faith after meeting Firdaus, because a lot of things going on that makes her started to question about her own self as a Muslim. So due to this, we can actually learn that we need to only focus on who you are and always hold tight on the rope of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala as a Muslim, because we need to know that we stay as a Muslim forever and don't ever got waved by the influence of West, because this can actually involve you into bad tragedies and a lot of illegal acts. So now that's all for the 3 main points from this book. Now I'm going to tell you about the morals that we can get from this book, which are, so the moral of this book is that first thing first is that you need to stay who you are. So throughout this book, we can actually see that it's very crucial for us to stay and always believe in your own roots, because that is where you come from, and you need to realize that you grow up with it. So as a culture diversity or anything that happened in your life, it is very, very vital for you to understand, for us to understand that we need to always hold on to our own culture and not to be influenced by others so easily. And especially as for the religion part, we always need to focus on the teaching of the Quran and also Sunnah and Hadith, because we are, as a Muslim, need to always hold on tight, because this is what we are and this is who we truly are, and don't really dive into other things that not really into our involvement at all. Now for the second one is about family bonding. It is really crucial for us to stick to each other as a family, and also not to have a lot of argument or any separation from family, because family bonding is really important for us, because it really brings our life and also shows that our life in peace. Allah SWT would definitely grant us a lot of wishes and rewards if we can truly bond and strengthen our family bond until the end of Jannah, inshallah. For the last part, which is be open to understand others. So when you have a cultural conflict, you need to understand that you need to open up your mind so that you can understand others on how they understand something, so that you can accept all opinion and also all of people's perspective. You cannot only just think of yourself and not be open to understand other people. So it's very crucial for all of us to help each other by understanding each other, and not to have a strong conflict or against, or like even have a lot of a misunderstanding between each other. So for the conclusion, to conclude, this book really shows deep understanding in having conflict and also personal growth in our own life. It shows that it is really crucial to have an open-minded people, and also to be open-minded to understand other people, and also to face each other's struggles without blaming to each other. And it's also vital for us to remind ourselves that we should stay who we are, and do not forget about your own roots or your own culture. Don't ever get easily influenced by others, and also destroy your own life. Especially as a Muslim, we need to always cover up yourself and always focus and follow the same path and the only right path. Don't ever listen to the wrong people, because it can actually involve you in doing illegal acts. So that's all from me. Thank you so much. Assalamualaikum.